Are we ready for John DeSouza? How many of you here have actually seen John DeSouza speak before? Pretty amazing. One of the nicest guys. DJ John DeSouza. He has a new job. He is one of the nicest guys on the circuit. I love to be able to tell people I know a real bona fide FBI secret agent who's here to change the frequency on the planet and get the truth out there. So Mr. X-Files guy, I know many of you have seen him maybe at Contact in the Desert. He's really going on the speaking circuit now, and it is my privilege and honor to introduce to you John DeSouza.
I'll be using this. All right. I was scrambling to add a music section to my presentation now, but it's too late. It's too late. I smell like I bathed in CBD oil. It's pretty bad. I will not be driving anywhere after this. I know it's legal here, like even recreational, but I smell like I actually took a ton of pot, lit it on fire, and threw myself on the pile. It's pretty strong. Okay. Anyway, I am John DeSouza. Thank you so much. Let me set my time here. All right. And I am so happy to have you guys here. This is my presentation, Para-investigators and the Globalist Terror. Just so that you know about me, I was an FBI agent for quite a period. I grew up in the FBI. From the age of 23, I was recruited right out of law school. So I was recruited right at the age of 23. It took, the background investigation took about a year, and I started serving at the age of 24. So it was a long-standing situation for me. One of my first experiences in the FBI was one that really set the tone for the craziness of what was to follow in the FBI. I was at an office, and I was assigned to my first office, and I went in, and I had my first supervisor was this crotchety, old, like, kind of police officer type from long ago, and he would call me kid all the time. Hey kid, do this, do that, kid, come over here, kid, go over there, kid. I really didn't like it, but you know, you gotta do what you gotta do. And one of the things about the FBI is that you have to realize how much pride we have in our credentials and putting forward our credentials, and the thing that has our name on it and our picture and with the badge and so forth. As a matter of fact, let me see if I can harness some of that energy to get some of these people. Let me hear you guys say, on three, let me hear you guys say, freeze, it's the FBI, okay? And you gotta hold up the badge, and you got your gun down here. That's how it works. So, ready? On three. 1, 2, 3. Freeze! The FBI! That's good, that's good. I think we can still do a little better though. Let's try it again, because we're trying to get those people out there to say, what the hell is going on in there? Ready? On three. 1, 2, 3. Freeze! This is the FBI! That's it. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. Now, that was, that was always a big source of pride for us in the FBI. So let me tell you a story. I was in the first office. I was with that supervisor who always said, hey, kid, do this, kid, go over there, kid. Well, I got in my first big lead, an assignment that you have to do. And the supervisor says to me, hey, kid, I'm going to cover that lead with you, show you the ropes. Well, I was like, okay, great. So easier for me, right? So I got the lead, and it was to go and serve a subpoena to testify on an individual somewhere, we don't know where. So that's what the lead was. And as I'm walking out with the supervisor, this guy loved to walk around like John Wayne and hike up his pants whenever he was talking. Always be hiking up his pants. That was his thing. That was his move. And so he got up, put on his gun and his badge, and he's like, okay, kid, let's go. Pulls up his pants, and we get going. As I'm walking out, I know something's terribly wrong because the veterans in the area there, they're all like shaking their heads and rolling their eyes, and that just, something was wrong, and I didn't quite know what it was. What I found out later is anybody who's been in law enforcement here, there's always a couple here. You know that one of the worst things that can happen to you in law enforcement is for a supervisor to tell you he's going to cover something in person in the street, on the streets, because they don't know anything about the streets. They have no idea, no clue, and it's always bad news if they tell you they're going to come with you, especially. So we walked out, we're going out, and we're driving, and we ended up going to the largest trailer park in that particular state, in the state of Arizona. It was the largest trailer park. It was like a post-apocalyptic nightmare shanty town. It was horrible. I'm talking a trailer park that is like a city unto itself. It covered acres and acres and acres and acres, and there's people in there, you know, there's people cooking in tin pots with mohawks and metal in their face. Oh, it was awful. Terrible, terrible place. So we take the subpoena, we go to the address, and that's where the address is. So we go to the address, we go to one of the biggest, rattiest looking trailers in this entire park. We go knock on the door, and we do the, hey, it's the FBI, we got to talk to you. And this guy comes to the door, I mean, the screen door is open, and we can see him. It's this ratty looking, I mean, he wasn't even old. He's just to give you an idea, it's this old looking little bald guy. He's got on a wife beater, greasy with stains on the wife beater shirt. And he's walking towards the door, shuffling through to the door, and he's shuffling through a layer of empty whiskey bottles that are all, and you hear the clinking, clink, 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 as he's just walking through these, that's not an exaggeration. The entire floor was a layer of empty whiskey bottles. He was kicking them apart as he's walking to the front door, which is the entryway where we were. And my supervisor stands in front of me, starts hiking up his pants, hiking up his belt, and then he takes out his badge. And of course, I do the same, of course, mirroring behavior. And we hold out a badge, and we say, FBI, we're here to talk to you. And, I've got the subpoena in my hand. It turns out he was supposed to be a witness against some organized crime figure that was in court at that time. So he gets up, and he looks kind of like that golem monster from Lord of the Rings, the lizard-like one, that one. He kind of looks like that. He's all hunched over, and he's kind of creeping towards us. And there's nothing wrong with him except alcoholism, as far as I can tell. And he's just creeping forward, and he's shuffling towards us. And then he bends down a little bit, or bends up, as the case may be, and it's just, he's looking at my supervisor's badge that's in front, and he says, I don't got my glasses. Hold that a little closer to me. So my supervisor hikes up his pants, and he holds it closer to his face. He goes and leans in, is really squinting, and then we hear, and a big old glob he spits right right on the picture of my supervisor, where that is, right on his face. We're in shock. I lean back, he leans back, and we're just in shock. And then my supervisor leans even further back and just comes forward with a right cross, just wham! Right on the sweet spot of his side of his face. Like that spot between the cheek and jaw that if you hit it just right, turns your lights out. The guy is out in his own little passageway. He's out on his back, out cold. And my supervisor is just standing over him, hiking up his belt, just taking a breath and looking at the situation. And then he takes a step back. He says, "You know, kid, we were never here. We knocked on the door and nobody answered." And we back out of the driveway, out of his walkway there, his entryway. We back out, go back to the car, and we're driving back. And on the drive back, he's telling me the importance of maintaining confidentiality in this situation and never speaking of this, no matter what. And I just told him, "Hey, as long as you don't call me kid anymore, I'm Special Agent John DeSouza." I showed him my badge, and I said, "I want to be John DeSouza, Special Agent, and no more kid or buddy or anything else." And he said, "Yeah, sounds good to me. Sounds good to me." And then at his retirement party, he told the whole story, implicating me, by the way. And so everybody knew. Everybody knew after that. So that was one of my first experiences in the FBI, and it was just a harbinger of things to come. So this is Para-investigators and the Globalist terror. This is the period that we are living through right now that we're not allowed to see. Very similar to the Soviet Union. So I have a deep connection to the Soviet Union because when I joined the FBI was right around the time of the fall of the Soviet Union when we found out a lot of the tyranny that went on during that period and what happened. So this is, let me see, this is it's an intro showing about who I am and some of the cases that I've worked as well. Have to be done up here? Oh. That was the Alfred P. Murrah building, that one. I can't tell you what did happen, I can tell you what didn't happen. That's about as close as I can get. I can tell you that Timothy McVeigh did not do all of that work by himself. That was an impossibility. It didn't happen. And I suspect that he was a patsy. And that's, my name is John. As close as I can get to what really happened.
Special agent in the FBI for over 20 years. At the age of 23, I became one of the youngest people ever recruited into the FBI as a special agent. As an agent, I helped solve high-profile crimes against humanity. Homicides, the 93 World Trade Center attacks, the Oklahoma City bombing, even 9/11. Most of my cases were criminal in nature. But other cases weren't so cut and dry. If I were to tell you I saw or experienced nothing strange during my 20-plus years of service, I wouldn't be telling the truth. These cases couldn't be explained in the physical world.
You see that? This appeared in the Norwegian sky.
Oh my God, get that.
What is this?
Major sighting here.
What I saw, the things I couldn't explain, they haunted me throughout my career. After 9/11, all these cases started coming forward. Children drawing pictures of burning buildings before it happened. Others saying they made predictions of 9/11. They were called indigo children.
There is absolutely no doubt that this is a different kind of child. It's a different kind of human being. They think differently. They are completely different.
I investigated several indigo children while in the FBI. Could they predict the future? Terror events?
There were a lot of people that had premonitions of the tragedy of 9/11, days, even weeks before the event actually happened. The problem is, what do you do with it?
The FBI concluded the indigo children's premonitions were just coincidence, so they closed the case. I believe evil exists in the physical world, but from my experience, there's an evil even darker in the paranormal. But most of my cases were counterterrorism, Unabomber, 9/11 attacks, 93 World Trade Center bombing, Oklahoma City bombing, all of those cases. And sometimes we were not allowed to get to the truth of those cases, especially the investigators. That's just the way it is. That's just the way it is when you're working within the gaslight triangle. Let me see if we can see that. That's William Casey, CIA director, one of the most malevolent people who have ever lived. He said, "We'll know our disinformation program is complete when everything the U.S. public believes is false." Gaslight triangle is, it's two parts of it are obvious, and the third is not. There's the fake news that is controlled by the elite powers in control, the epic, the cabal as well. There is government authorities' fakery, like we saw in 9/11. But the third leg of the gaslight triangle is mainstream science. Medical establishment, scientists, people that, if you're above a certain age, we just trust these authorities. We trust these authorities, and we need to be deconditioned from that. Here's some ads when MDs and scientists were advocating cigarettes and nicotine back in the 50s. And they were saying cigarettes are actually good for you. Nicotine's good for your lungs. And those same physicians and scientists today are advocating vaccines for your kids, no matter how many vaccines they are. True investigators are para-investigators. Para-investigation is just a system of investigation that uses all the normal accoutrements of investigation, but then it lets in intuitive paranormal abilities. And the truth is, all those experienced homicide detectives, those grizzled old police detectives that you see, who seem like the most physical, nonsense kind of guys, they all use their intuition in their investigations. They just can't talk about it. All this material is based on my book, The Para-investigators, True Tales of Supernaturally Gifted Investigators. Here's a story of the story of a case that's actually taught at police academies. And it is an investigator that had, he had a guy whose stepdaughter had disappeared. His stepdaughter was about 17 years old. She was a very, she behaved towards the stepfather like she was very seductive manner. She was trying to get him to buy her a car. And then he was some kind of laborer. He was like a carpenter or something, or a plumber. And then he was just a normal guy, but his stepdaughter had disappeared, and there were no signs anywhere of a struggle. She was just gone. No signs of a struggle. Nobody could find her. And this particular detective, who was a young detective, he felt like this guy had killed her. But he wasn't allowed to hold him for very long. He could just interrogate him, and if he didn't develop any probable cause, he had to let him go. He had to let him go. And the problem with that was that this particular detective got some downloads during this discussion. And the discussion went along the lines of, your stepdaughter, you had a lot of conflicts with her, right? She had been behaving seductively towards you. She had been doing things that were inappropriate. And so you had a fight with her, didn't you? You know, what happened? What really happened? Where is she? Just tell us. She'd been gone for several days by this time, I think over a week. And they had actually searched his home in his area, and they found nothing, no signs of a struggle, no blood, nothing. They didn't know what happened. So the detective said to the guy, look, because he had to let him go. So he was coming down to the wire, and he was told by his superiors he had to let the guy go. And then he finally just said to the guy, look, I know that you disappeared this girl. I know that you disappeared her, but I also know that it wasn't your fault. It wasn't your fault. I know that she was behaving seductively towards you. She was probably doing things that were really wrong, and you probably just had a fight with her, and the fight just got out of hand. You probably pushed her, her head hit against something, and she died. He was just taking a shot in the dark. And then he saw this micro signal. He saw the guy's shoulders just drop, just a centimeter. And that's just like that. And that's the universal signal that somebody is giving up and is just going to tell you the truth. So he says to the detective, okay, look, like he hit it right on the button. He said to the detective, okay, you know what? I'm going to tell you everything. I'm going to tell you everything, but I just need to go to the mother first and just talk to her. And I need to talk to her, like really talk to her. And then I'll come back and I'm going to tell you everything. And as soon as the guy said that, he got up to leave. And the detective just got this download where he felt that if that guy left that interrogation room, he was going to go kill people. He was going to go kill people. He's probably going to kill the mother, kill himself. He just received that at that moment. So, and there was nothing he could do to stop him. Well, except then he stood up and he just said to the guy, okay, wait. He said to him, just practice one time on me before you go. Make believe I'm the mom and you tell me what you're going to tell her. That's it. That's all you got to do. Just practice one time. So he sat down again, and he did. He started practicing on him, told him, look, me and Shelly got into a fight. We got arguing. She was trying to get me to have sex with her. I didn't want to. I was really upset. She was telling me that she would tell people that I raped her if I didn't do everything that she wanted. And things got out of hand. I pushed her. She hit her head against the heavy wooden cabinet that we have, and she died. And that was it. He had him. He was able to put the cuffs on him, stop him, and keep him. Later, his pickup truck was searched. He had just bought shotgun shells and he had a shotgun in the pickup truck at the front, and he just bought a new box of shotgun shells. And it was confirmed that he was planning. It was later confirmed that he was planning to go and kill the mother and kill himself at that moment, and he was never going to return. So that's a famous case that is taught at the police academies. It's taught for the reason. It's funny because it's actually taught for the reason of like, don't ever give up on developing probable cause. Just don't give up. There's always ways that you can keep developing probable cause, also called reasonable cause. Keep trying. Don't stop. Don't give up. But on another level, of course, you know what it's really teaching. It's teaching them to listen to their intuition, to their supernatural abilities as well. So a lot of this is true investigators versus fact finders. Fact finders are, fact finders are a good thing, but not when they're pretending to be investigators. Fact finders are like juries, judges, analysts, scientists. They're the people who say follow the data, who say great claims require great evidence. Now that's fact finders. They just gather data. That's what they do. Only investigators can can connect clues, and connect patterns, build profiles. Fact finders can't do that. Fact finders like to say, where's your evidence? When they're really not interested in knowing what your evidence is. True investigators are very different. True investigators follow clues no matter where they lead. They build profiles. They find final investigative conclusions. Very different from fact finders. Scientists disagree with true investigation very much. They've invented these conditions called apophenia, pareidolia, seeing patterns where there really are none. Because true investigators, that's all they do is see patterns and connect patterns to each other. DeSouza rule of reverse corroboration. When you have a discredited agency giving you conclusions, you know they're false because they're discredited. And in all of our minds, it can be different organizations. For me, it's the CIA. CIA is a discredited organization. When I see information from them right away, I know it's suspect. I know that stuff isn't true. For me, even NASA, as far as information gatherer, is discredited. Ever since 1977, when we stopped going to the moon, and they gave no reason, and they never have ever since then. This is the CUCK system of investigation. It is one that was developed actually during the Soviet Union. It's the simplest form I can do to make people understand the important parts of investigation. CUCK, as in don't be a cuck for the deep state, so that people can remember it that way. CUCK stands for cover story identified, usual suspects actions, collect and connect all clues that are dispositive, and final knowledge from investigative conclusion. The CUCK investigation system can be applied to mass shootings, to bizarre political organizations, to government actions that make no sense. It can be applied to just about anything. But it's only appropriate, the CUCK system of investigation is only appropriate for an Orwellian society where information is being completely controlled. And my hypothesis is that's what we're living in. We're living in that right now. Here's a CUCK investigation. Jeffrey Epstein. How do I adjust this? I'm not getting the entire screen. Matt, is there a way to adjust this? Oh, now I did it. The first couple of parts are easy. Can we get that bottom? Oh, okay. I'd actually rather get the bottom than the top. Okay. Here's a typical CUCK investigation. You guys heard of what happened with Jeffrey Epstein, right? Yeah. So here's the cover story.
And when I say cover story, this is the information that's presented as a story to each one of us. And the details that are mentioned in that cover story are right here. First, every story started with the main premise. Epstein is an evil sex trafficker. They want to remind you, okay? And the implication there is that anything that happens to this guy, or even anything we say about this guy, whether it's a lie or the truth, is justified because he's an evil sex trafficker, okay? Here's the other one. Epstein has attempted suicide one time before, and Epstein now completed his own suicide with no involvement from any of the many evildoers that wanted him dead, okay? That's the cover story those were the details that were included in every single story. And the usual suspects are the media, the mainstream media. Thousands of mainstream media outlets, newspapers, programs, websites, they all reported the exact same cover story, okay? Also, another usual suspects' actions are the authorities in New York City and federal government made no attempt to prosecute the warden of the MCC where he was being kept. The warden that personally signed off on taking him off of suicide watch, all right, and then delivered him into a cell. And part of the time in the cell, he was with some crazy murderer, former corrupt police officer who supposedly may or may not have tried to kill him. Also, the commentators, information officers of the Globalists used this time to not say anything about the lists from the Jeffrey Epstein trial. There were a lot of lists being exposed with names of individuals who were on that list. Collect and connect dispositive clues. A dispositive clue is a clue that has so much probative weight to it. It has so much probative value that it could actually determine guilt or innocence by itself. That is a dispositive clue. So sometimes a dispositive clue is often something that happens once in 10 years, once in a century, once in a lifetime, and is connected to the fact pattern of your case. So here's some dispositive clue. And this takes a long time to really figure out how you ferret out these dispositive clues. Here's some of them. The previous attempted suicide appears to have been just theater to set up the plausibility of this later act. If you drill down on the previous suicide attempt, there's nothing there. There's like nothing there. Literally, it was just nothing. Like he was just found with a rope somewhere, but there was like no marks on his neck. I mean, he had 8 hours. He could have easily been killed or killed himself if that had been a real attempt. Also, just prior to this, there were not one, but two massive blackouts affecting the portion of New York City where the MCC is situated, okay? Two massive blackouts. And at the time, all of us were saying, oh my gosh, they're doing this blackout to go kill Epstein. That's why they're doing the blackout. Well, it turns out the opposite was true. Also, the excellent true investigators on 8chan, if you guys know who these kids are, they're just a bunch of young kids who sit on their computers. They're the investigators of 8chan. They did an analysis of the photo that was released of Epstein's body, and they proved through forensic comparison that it was not Epstein at all. It actually had the body had a lot greater similarity to Hillary Clinton's brother who had died 2 months earlier. So and then final knowledge. Don't read ahead. Final knowledge from investigative conclusion. Epstein is alive and well. I didn't say this would be easy. I only said it would be the truth. Epstein is alive and well. He was smuggled out of MCC by white hats, allied forces. He is cooperating with authorities towards prosecution of all of his former associates who are now breathing easy and believing he is dead. Okay? Now, let me tell you something with these CUCK investigations.
I know, on a personal level, I know this is true. That doesn't mean that Epstein's going to turn up alive later on somewhere, because there's always a double trick with these things. He could, now that he's cooperating and alive somewhere, cooperating with authorities, he could very easily be killed later because there's no penalty. He's already classified dead, okay? So just because this is true, it doesn't mean he's going to turn up alive later, because he can be disposed of, you know, and he's probably the type of person that they wouldn't have any problem disposing of him, having it on their conscience, okay? Just so you know. So that's the final conclusion. A lot of these CUCK investigations, they lead to some pretty wild conclusions, and you'll see that as we go on. Okay, that's something else. The age of globalist terror on America really opened up on 9/11. Really opened up on 9/11. If you want to know real truth about 9/11, stay away from the government commission reports from the whatever commission that was called. It was just called the 9/11 Commission. If you want all the facts, all the real facts that really go towards 9/11, just go to Architects and Engineers for 911 Truth. Architects and Engineers for 911 Truth. An amazing organization, and those guys know what they're talking about. It's amazing. Truly amazing. Another CUCK investigation. Oh, well, this is just a review. This is one of the most suppressed videos on YouTube. If you ever, whenever you see these alternative videos on YouTube, just grab them and load them on your computer, because they get wiped out right away. And this one's about 9/11.
On the morning of September 11th, 2001, 19 men armed with box cutters, directed by a man on dialysis in a cave fortress halfway around the world using a satellite phone and a laptop, directed the most sophisticated penetration of the most heavily defended airspace in the world, overpowering the passengers and the military combat-trained pilots on 4 commercial aircraft before flying those planes wildly off course for over an hour without being molested by a single fighter interceptor. These 19 hijackers, devout religious fundamentalists who like to drink alcohol, snort cocaine, and live with pink-haired strippers, managed to knock down 3 buildings with 2 planes in New York. While in Washington, a pilot who couldn't handle a single-engine Cessna was able to fly a 757 in an 8,000-foot descending 270-degree corkscrew turn to come exactly level with the ground, hitting the Pentagon in the budget analyst office where DoD staffers were working on the mystery of the $2.3 trillion that Defense Secretary Donald Rumsfeld had announced missing from the Pentagon's coffers in a press conference the day before, on September 10th, 2001. Luckily, the news anchors knew who did it within minutes.
Osama bin Laden.
The pundits knew within hours.
Osama bin Laden.
The administration knew within the day.
Terrorists who committed these acts and those who harbor them.
And the evidence literally fell into the FBI's lap.
That a hijacker's passport was found blocks from the World Trade Center crash site, if you can believe that.
But for some reason, a bunch of crazy conspiracy theorists demanded an investigation into the greatest attack on American soil in history. That investigation was delayed, underfunded, set up to fail, a conflict of interest, and a cover-up from start to finish. It was based on testimony extracted through torture, the records of which were destroyed. It failed to mention the existence of WTC-7, Able Danger, P-TECH, Sibel Edmonds, OBL and the CIA, and the drills of hijacked aircraft being flown into buildings that were being simulated at the precise same time that those events were actually happening. It was lied to by the Pentagon, the CIA, the Bush administration, and as for Bush and Cheney, well, no one knows what they told it because they testified in secret, off the record, not under oath, and behind closed doors. It didn't bother to look at who funded the attacks because that question is ultimately of little practical significance. Still, the 9/11 Commission did brilliantly, answering all of the questions the public had, except most of the victims' family members' questions, and pinned blame on all the people responsible, although no one so much as lost their job, determining the attacks were
failure of imagination.
Because
nobody in our government, at least, and I don't think the prior government that could envision flying airplanes into buildings.
Except the Pentagon, FEMA, NORAD, and the NRO. The DIA destroyed 2.5 terabytes of data on Able Danger, but that's okay because it probably wasn't important. The SEC destroyed their records on the investigation into the insider trading before the attacks, but that's okay because destroying the records of the largest investigation in SEC history is just part of routine record keeping. NIST has classified the data that they used for their model of WTC7's collapse, but that's okay because knowing how they made their model of the collapse would jeopardize public safety. The FBI has argued that all material related to their investigation of 9/11 should be kept secret from the public, but that's okay because the FBI probably has nothing to hide. This man never existed, nor is anything he had to say worthy of your attention, and if you say otherwise, you are a paranoid conspiracy theorist and deserve to be shunned by all of humanity. Likewise him, and her. And her, and her, and him. Osama bin Laden lived in a cave fortress in the hills of Afghanistan, but somehow got away. Then he was hiding out in Tora Bora, but somehow got away. Then he lived in Abbottabad for years, taunting the most comprehensive intelligence dragnet employing the most sophisticated technology in the history of the world for a decade, releasing video after video with complete impunity and getting younger and younger as he did so, before finally being found in a daring SEAL team raid which wasn't recorded on video, in which he didn't resist or use his wife as a human shield, and in which these crack special forces operatives panicked and killed this unarmed man, supposedly the best source of intelligence about those dastardly terrorists on the entire planet. Then they dumped his body in the ocean before telling anyone about it. Then a couple dozen of that team's members died in a helicopter crash in Afghanistan. This is the story of 9/11, brought to you by the media which told you the hard truths about
His head could be seen to move violently forward.
and
They took the babies out of the incubators.
and
mobile production facilities.
and
The rescue of Jessica Lynch.
if you have any questions about this story, you are a batshit paranoid tinfoil dog-abusing baby hater and will be reviled by everyone. If you love your country and or freedom, happiness, rainbows, rock and roll, puppy dogs, apple pie, and your grandma, you will never ever express doubts about any part of this story to anyone. Ever. This has been a public service announcement by the Friends of the FBI, CIA, NSA, DIA, SEC, MSM, White House, NIST, and the 9/11 Commission. Because ignorance is strength.
That's still on the internet.
Yeah, people should, wherever they see this, they should grab it and hold it and keep it on your computer because it's a very important examination. When I first knew that something very, very fake was going on at 9/11 was when all of the people on the ground at the site of the rubble from the buildings kept reporting, and we had NTSB there, people who were responsible for recovering parts of planes. Under the new policy, they were supposed to actually rebuild the planes on a separate offsite to help them with the investigation. Well, all of the FBI people and all of the personnel on the ground didn't find any shred of any plane in any of the buildings. There were no pieces, no nothing. Well, we were told, oh, well, the jet fuel melted it all, melted everything. Well, that's not possible. That's just not possible with these huge airliners. For every crumb, everything on those planes to just disappear. Also, around the same time, there was a local builder in New York City that said that the Twin Towers had been built with new technology where there was an steel exoskeleton. He was interviewed on the radio, and he said there was a steel exoskeleton on this skyscraper, something relatively new in skyscrapers, and that he said that it just didn't pass muster, that these giant airplanes were able to just cut through these buildings like butter. The jetliners were just able to go right through without leaving pieces on the outside or something. It just didn't make sense. That person was Donald Trump. He gave an interview, and he pretty much said, you know, the way those planes cut through those buildings like butter, he said, I just don't buy it. I just don't buy it because I know the tech that was used to make those planes. And of course, and I need to add it to my presentation, of course there's a famous video that was taken down from Channel 7 News that actually shows one of the planes going through and coming out the other side of the building. Oh, you guys know, right? You guys know. It shows the plane coming out the other side, almost like it's a hologram
type of thing. Yeah, right? It shows, and then it just it blinks out. It disappears on the other side of the building. And they got rid of that film fast, and it's never been seen. But I'm sure we can find it. We can find it. It was, yeah. No, people, no, everybody died. The deaths were real. Even the terrorists died on that. All the deaths were real. They really died because the cabal has no problem murdering women and children for their deeds. They have no problem with that. So those people really did die. But what it appears, to me, it appears that there were no actual planes that went into those buildings. Those planes went somewhere. They did, absolutely. But I don't think they went into those buildings because we never found anything inside. As a matter of fact, when the investigators were protesting to the higher ups in government, suddenly, guess what they produced? We see guys in black windbreakers and black ball caps around the area of the rubble, and then suddenly somebody finds a stewardess's lapel pin, one of the stewardesses that died, and say, oh, here it is. Here's some evidence from one of the planes. It's her lapel pin, and they had her identifying badge number on the lapel pin. And then they found an ID from a pilot, and these IDs were not burned at all. They were pristine, like they just came out of the factory. Okay? And they say, okay, now we got evidence from the planes. Also, the New York Times, 8 years later, supposedly, they found a piece of one of the planes 4 blocks away, 8 years later. Okay, and that was in all the newspapers too. It was on the front pages, and they said, oh, look, we finally found a piece of one of the planes. Imagine if you find a bloody knife at a murder scene 8 years later. Okay, that's what that was like. So, and yet there was technology used that day that was so far above anything that we can ever imagine. There was technology that somehow they made it appear. There was some kind of living explosive used, an explosive that was unknown to us, so that wherever the hologram touched, it actually blew up the building wherever the hologram touched. I mean, it's hard to describe because it's technology that's above our understanding. And so that's what was used that day. Oh, here's an important portion here. How do we identify the globalist traitors in our midst? Well, I'm an amateur historian. In the old days, we used to have a globalist dictator like Alexander or Napoleon who was trying to take over the entire world. So what they would do is they would be advancing on a nation, and they would just they would be paying certain senators to work with them, senators of those respective nations. And those senators would have the globalist coin in their pocket with the face of the dictator on it, gold coins. So it was easy to do a search of those senators and find that globalist coin and then say, there's the traitor, that's the guy.
A bribe of the flesh, gentlemen, while our husband promotes anarchy and war.
Xerxes.
Words escape even the most cunning tongue. My little whore queen. What queen-like behavior. Remove her from this chamber before she infects us further with her inglorious and shabby self.
This will not be over quickly. You will not enjoy this. I am not your queen.
Face of Xerxes, the Persian dictator. He just said traitor. Today we don't have gold coins with the face of George Soros on it, jingling in the pockets of our senators and congressmen. But here's what we do have. We have the globalist coin are agenda items,
that you see being pushed forward by some of your politicians. And that's what we've got. Instead of gold coins in their pockets, we can identify them through these agendas. Depopulation, civilian disarmament, control of the economies, debt slavery model, elimination of borders, nation state and all border. These are the agenda items that belong to the globalists, that they will never stop. They will never let go of these agenda items. They will always push this forward through their minions. It doesn't matter, Democrat, Republican, Tory, Labor, Likud, conservative, it doesn't matter what they have people in every party, always. And this is the globalist coin of today. If you can identify the agenda items, you identify the globalist coin. Got it? Okay. And this is an illustration of the last agenda item. Oh, did you not get it? I'll do it again. Go ahead. And then number 5, control of globalist elites directly over national citizens. Global warming, the climate change scam is a part of that. Trying to bring back the old scam under a different name. Climate crisis. That's a part of this direct control that they want to get over national citizens. Also, strict, under number 5, strict control of all media and news information. Some of you may think you know the extent of the information control in our society, but I'm about to show you that you don't. Watch this. This has been happening we're in 2019, all of last year and into this year as well. And a lot of you did not know about it, because what typically happens is these crazy, bizarre things will be reported on local news, your local news, wherever you are, just for 5 seconds, and then it'll never be seen again, and it'll never get out to the national services. And I'm going to show you right now what it is. December 27th, 2018, New York City.
Video out of New York. No, this is not a scene from an upcoming Independence Day movie or an actual alien invasion. New York police say it's a transformer explosion at a power plant in Queens, lighting up the New York City skyline in a brilliant blue. No one was hurt in the explosion. The explosion caused some power outages, including LaGuardia Airport, but they didn't last very long. The New York Fire Department determined it was caused by equipment malfunction.
Now, the first thing that I want to draw attention to is the video captured of what happened. Meanwhile, they splice in video that you see here of some kind of event supposedly taken during the same thing. They combine those images together to make it seem like, oh, regular people got video of the close-up transformer explosion. But that is how deceptive and sneaky they really are. This is what a real transformer explosion looks like. This video was captured last year in New Brunswick. As you can see, it doesn't go on for as long as this event did, and it doesn't light up the entire sky with a bright bluish green. It is a warm yellowish glow, and it is a local light that definitely does not light up the entire sky, and it extinguishes very quickly.
Let me tell you what was going on all of last year. We had, over major cities like New York City, we had these portals, bright blue portals opening up in the middle of the sky at about 2, 3 in the morning. 2 in the morning. These portal, that's the only way you can describe them. Just big, huge portal lights just opening up in the sky. People were freaking out. It lit up the sky at a time when it was like past midnight, lit up the sky bright so it looked like the afternoon. And there's hundreds of cell phone videos in New York City of people freaking out, showing what's going on. The sky is lit up like it's morning, like it's afternoon. in the middle of the night, and we don't know. So these portals appeared in the skies, but that's not the freaky part. The freaky part is this. About 20 minutes after each of these portals opened up and lit up the entire city with its brightness, people started clicking photos, taking photos of these portals, and there were UFOs coming out of these portals. And then the freakier part is this. Some kind of ray came down out of the sky after about 20 minutes of the portals being there. Ray came down out of the sky and blew up stuff on the ground. Usually transformers, electrical transformers, or gasoline stations, or something of that sort. Blew up things on the ground. And it appears the reason was to distract people from the portal, or to make people believe the explosion was what created the lighting up of the city. So there was a lot going on.
So quickly. Plus, I also want to know what is seen flying out of this bright area in the sky.
It's also New York City.
That perhaps we are being visited by extraterrestrials? Could it be that perhaps we are being visited by another dimension? Or could it be that these are experiments being made right in front of our eyes? What if this is a government experiment that was out of control? The quickest thing to say is, hey, it was an electrical fire. Well, last time I checked, this is what an electrical fire looks like. It's always red and black from the smoke. I've never once seen a bright blue sky due to an electrical fire. So what is happening here? It's very scary, but I think that we finally have made contact. It is here, ladies and gentlemen. The proof is here. It's happened right in front of our eyes and we haven't even noticed. We have not even noticed. Now what should we be doing? I want to be prepared in every way possible. We don't know exactly what's going to happen from this moment on. 2019 is going to be a very interesting year. I want to play this over and over again, slower, so that you can see what I see. I'm going to slow it down to the speed of maybe half or 1/4 of the regular speed. And you can clearly see that something has flown out of this area in the sky. It almost looks as if something actually opened, some type of portal. As you can see there, you can actually notice something, actually a bright light. And then from that light comes this vessel. So many questions can be asked from here on. Like, what is in the vessel? Could this be connected to time travel? That's another theory that I have that I believe is very possible. Could it be that we are seeing ourselves from the future? Or could it be that this is also maybe an interdimensional portal that has opened? And if so, what other creatures or...
Everyone got pictures of UFOs coming out of these portals. This happened in Kenner, Louisiana, right around the same time. It's looking for the gas station.
portal's been up there for about 20 minutes before these rays start coming down. This is Maracaibo, Venezuela. Again, these video clips are being taken after the portal was up there in the middle of the city, lighting up the city in the middle of the night, and then the rays came down. I don't think so, because these were all reported on local news for like 5 seconds. And they were just reported as accidental blowing up of a transformer or a gas station, and then they were never seen again.
Sigue explotando todo acá, va a explotar toda la calle. Esto es una cosa, mire. Este es el verguero eléctrico.
There's the dates when these things happen. That's Kenner, Louisiana again. This is Phuket, Thailand. This time the portal was in a giant red cloud that just appeared to have lightning in it, and there's no volcano there. That's just there by itself. And people got pictures of this, and there were UFOs coming out of it. Incredible. Incredible information control, and that's the globalist terror. When those rays just came out of the sky, the globalists, I believe, have space platforms, and they do use directed energy weapons. DEWs. At least that's the proof I see on these screens. As we get closer to real disclosure, a new phenomena has appeared: partial disclosure, controlled disclosure, government intel agency disclosure. All of these guys are all CIA officials and Pentagon officials who have lied to the public all their lives. And now suddenly they retired the day before this, and now they're going to tell you the truth, okay? At least that's their story. And here's one of their primary efforts here.
Warning, the following content may not be suitable for all viewers. Viewer discretion is advised. November 2004, off the coast of San Diego. A training exercise has begun. The USS Nimitz supercarrier, the largest aircraft carrier in the world, designed for one purpose: to infiltrate and annihilate enemy forces.
The Nimitz is one of the largest ships we have in the U.S. Navy. It's so big, it has enough firepower to basically take over the entire country. Add to that the Nimitz is always accompanied by smaller ships of all shapes and sizes. You're talking about a flotilla.
Housing over 6,000 soldiers, the Nimitz can launch one of its 90 deadly warblers every 20 seconds. This is the U.S. Navy at its most extreme. No one and no thing would dare cross its path. Until November 14th. A blip appears in the radar. An unknown object crosses the screen, pushing speeds at over 3,000 miles per hour. Radar operators assume it's a technical malfunction. But then, another object appears. And another. And another. The Nimitz goes into high alert. Not only are these foreign objects appearing near a Navy aircraft carrier, but they're also invading United States airspace. 2 F-18 fighters are deployed, led by Top Gun Navy pilot Commander David Fravor. With over 16 years flight experience and over 3,500 flight hours, Fravor had more qualifications than any other pilot in the United States at the time.
So we were running training exercises before our deployment to Iraq when we got the call about these foreign objects. So I ordered my guys to suit up and go check it out. But we never could have expected what we were about to see.
Flying high above the ocean surface, the F-18s intercept the location of contact, 180 miles west of the San Diego coastline. When Commander Fravor reaches the contact point, he looks out of his cockpit window and is astonished at what he sees below. A craft hovers above the ocean surface, floating in midair. It has no exhaust, no wings or rotors, and no apparent means of mechanical lift. Fravor described the craft as an elongated egg or tic-tac shaped craft, unlike anything in the U.S. Armada.
See, the craft didn't have any flight surfaces on it. There was no wings, no tail, no jet engine. It was just solid and white. And it hovered like a helicopter, except there was no rotor wash on the surface of the water.
And if the presence of the craft wasn't strange enough, what happens next defies all known physical laws. The craft began moving at instantaneous speeds, starting and stopping without any acceleration or deceleration. Commander Fravor said it looked like a ping pong ball scanning across the water, and that the G-forces of such maneuvers should have been enough to destroy the craft itself, or at least instantly kill any human occupants inside.
When we're dealing with advanced technology, we're in the realm of the unknown. We don't actually know what it is that's animating the craft. We don't know how it's moving. It's beyond the realm of our physics and our understanding of how physics work. Therefore, when we're thinking about things like G-force, to us, it makes sense that it doesn't make sense. But when we traverse into that unknown territory, we have to start asking more questions about what we think we know.
At this point, all I could think about was, I want to get a better look at this thing.
Fravor pilots within a half mile of the craft and chases it throughout the sky. And once he locked on, his heat-activated camera picked up this extraordinary footage.
There's a whole fleet of them. Look on the ASA.
Commander Fravor and his co-pilot converse over their private communication line.
They're all going against the wind. The wind's 120 knots from the west. Look at that thing, dude. My gosh.
The seasoned pilots are completely baffled by the craft's speed, lack of heat exhaust, and impossible maneuverability. Then, something amazing happens.
Look at that thing.
The craft begins rotating on its side.
It's rotating.
The pilots are shocked. It becomes clear to these professional pilots that what they're witnessing is not of this world.
My gosh.
I've never seen anything move like that. I mean, it had no exhaust. Every aircraft has exhaust. Even drones have contrails that you can see on the FLIR. There was nothing coming out of this to make it move. I've seen every aircraft on Earth. And this thing was not from Earth.
You can believe that there's other life out there, and you can believe that it's coming here to visit, but it's much different than when you actually are staring at it. Because your entire worldview is shattered. This thing shows up out of nowhere. That's not part of your current reality. You can't deny it. It is there.
When the footage was released in 2017 by the Pentagon, the military classified the object as an AAV, an anomalous aerial vehicle, the new military term for UFO. But this wasn't the first sighting. Over the following 2-week period, the Nimitz continued to spot hundreds of craft, and new footage kept rolling in.
Dude. Wow, look at that, man. Look at that fly.
Why is it that even people in our military who are fighter pilots with 17 years experience, they don't know what advanced technology is being used?
Within days, internet commenters suggested the video might be the work of clever CGI artists or an elaborate hoax. But the nature of the footage and its release suggests otherwise.
Let's say, could it be a fake? Let's say yes. Okay, it's a fake. If it is something like CGI, then you have to consider that means that every single pilot involved is in on the fake. The people on the Nimitz are also in on the fake. People at the Pentagon who authorized this to be released are in on the fake. Either way, this is a monumental story because you're talking about either this is aliens visiting us with tech that we can't imagine, or this is a fake from the government that somehow has some extraordinary agenda going forward to make us believe in alien life.
To this day, the Pentagon has no explanation for the event, and the military's executive report assesses that the anomalous aerial vehicle was no known aircraft or air vehicle currently in the inventory of the United States or any foreign nation.
This is an extraordinary event, and taken in context with the eyewitness testimony of the pilot flying the jet chasing this thing, and the radar data from the ship itself tracking this thing, you've got not only an image, but radar data, and the pilot giving his personal testimony. You've got three different triangulations that this is something not from Earth.
Could the Tic Tac craft be evidence of extraterrestrial contact with our own military? Are the purposes of its occupants peaceful, or are they possibly a threat to national or even global security? Perhaps an explanation can be found from more extraordinary footage captured by everyday civilians recording UFO contact on a commercial airline.
We now believe that Tic Tac videos are part of a deep state operation to take over ufology. And there's many of these videos. This isn't the only. There's many of them. And we now believe that these videos are being used. They are being used by the deep state to take over ufology, basically, and take over the agenda because they're trying to drive us towards their ultimate goal, which is fake alien invasion. Okay? That's where we are with this. That's it, guys, for my time. I'm way over. Thank you so much.